Yeah, hello ladies and gentlemen, I am Sylphin and welcome to the channel where we're all about positivity and optimism. Very different video for you today as I kind of want to share an idea with you. I'm quite a dreamer when it comes to just me being me. So I come up with some crazy ideas and you know what? I like to kind of flesh them out and I find enjoyment in a lot of those things. So what is the topic of this video? It's Paragon MOBRA. What is that? Well, guys, it's a multiplayer online battle royale arena, otherwise known as a MOBRA. I wanted to combine Paragon, what it was as a MOBA, with the battle royale genre. Is there a way to put these two genres together, evolve the MOBA genre that has been around for a long time with this new huge up-and-coming genre of battle royale? So I wanted to see what sort of things could I throw together. And you know what? It's been quite the process. So it's just like the strategy, structure, and objective-based game like a MOBA, but is massively multiplayer action-filled with changing battlefield conditions like a battle royale. Now, it's going to have, just like normal, 100-person matches, just like BR, with teams of 5. It's only a teamed game. Players queue into a teamed draft screen. They select roles, then heroes, support, tank, ADC, mage, assassin, whatever you want, I suppose. And it looks like this. With my recently found skills in Photoshop, as you guys can see here, you know what? Just like the alpha, well, you go into a group of 5, you select your role, and you select your hero. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. And then you go into the BR match. So total of 20 teams per match. There's 25-man teams on the same map duking it out. Now, what's some of the MOBA-specific map elements and gameplay? We've kind of defined how it looks like in terms of gripping up and playing. But what are some of the MOBA-specific map elements and gameplay? Well, there's 11 cores. 11 cores symmetrically placed around the map, looking like this. You can see here that I've added some themes to them. There's high elevation at the top. There's low elevation at the bottom, just as an idea for the visuals. But as you can see, they're evenly spread out in a sort of a pentagram sort of shape. The background to this video that you're seeing here kind of gives you the idea of the theme. Maybe not so fantasy driven and with such huge vibrant colors, but at least you kind of get that vast space. As a reference, each one of these diamonds that the pentagram is made of is the size of Legacy. That is the size of, so it is 6 times the size of Legacy. That is the map that we are talking about here. And I just put some themes for each area: volcano, mountain, swamp, rolling prairies, motions. I mean, verticality would be a huge thing. Anyways, that is what the map looks like. Now, it's a pentagram shape with internal triangular section. There's one tower in each lane halfway between each cores. As you can see here, tower here in this lane, tower here in this lane, tower in here in that lane. There are small turrets at the edge of each core's radius to defend each connected lanes. They're about 50% smaller of towers. They're small, but at least they're just a little bit of an objective protecting those cores. As you can see here, there's this 5-lane core here, and then there's these small turrets. Jungle buffs and map objectives in the middle of each core triangle, small and large green icons on the map. So these randomly spawn as various buffs or, you know, obviously big map objective bonuses. So you can see the small little jungle buffs you can see here in the little green, and then there's the big central map objective spawn location in the middle of those big jungles. Now, minions spawn from captured cores. To capture a core, one must disable an enemy structure, channel an activation sequence to initiate a deployment phase, and a friendly structure will then deploy. Captured cores and lane minions will be colored to reflect the team's colors. When you capture it, it comes up with your colors. 3 melee and 3 ranged minions spawn per connected lane, with 1 siege minion spawning only when the nearest connected tower is captured. So once you start getting more structures, you know, claiming more structures, you start empowering your lanes. If the nearest core is also captured, one super minion spawns per connected lane for each core. Because you have two cores, you'll have super minions traveling down all of those lanes connected to those cores. Minions spawn down all lanes except ones that lead to already captured cores, obviously because there's no purpose for them to. If an enemy team captures a tower in between two allied captured cores, then minions will spawn to push that tower. Really, that tower doesn't stand much of a chance, as it kind of shouldn't, you know, against two waves of minions. If minions come to a neutral, uncaptured core, they will randomly select the lane to continue pushing. That's really not going to happen, but just as a contingency, that's what they would do. Players spawn from captured cores or towers when killed. Players choose to spawn from a captured structure when killed, kind of like just other games out there where you can kind of pick your spawn location on an objective or something like that. This, you can pick what structure you want to respawn from. This is in accordance with normal respawn timers and their hero levels, just like in Paragon, and respawn time is tripled if spawning from a tower. If you only have a tower, not a core, you kind of have to be punished for that. It still is a MOBA, but we're tying in some BR elements, so there is that penalty. If no structure is captured, players cannot respawn until an ally captures a structure. And you know what? If no structure is captured and every member of a team dies, that team is removed from the match. That is how you die. Players can access the equipment and upgrade screens only within a captured structure's radius. Tier 4 items can only be obtained at a captured core, again, incentivizing you to get that core, meaning, you know, fulfilling the whole purpose of kind of it still being a MOBA. And this is what the itemization screen would look like. Your equipment, you would have 3 cards in play, 3 in your backpack, and 3 in a structure storage. You would have gems over here, little stat screen, and then you would have your upgrade. And yes, that is from Smite. They have it laid out so well, so I just wanted to illustrate what that would look like, even though that is Smite's system. Players sync their recall ability to a captured structure through a short recall sync phase at a structure. You're probably like, well, what about how do players recall back to base? Well, you simply just sync your recall ability to a structure. As you know, you're moving around the map, capturing structures and stuff like that. You might want to sync it to something else. But I mean, if you know, depending on where you want to recall back to, you can have that choice. Now, jungle buffs, not the map objectives, these ones closest to the cores, would be 1 guardian character model with 2 flanking sentinels, just like they are in Paragon. They would randomly spawn as the Zechen, Hunter, Gold, Amber, or Swift buffs. I'm kind of adding those 3, the Gold, Amber, and Swift. We add those spawns every 4 minutes, but they would still be the guardian character model. Right, there'd still be the guardian character model. Instead, it would just have a chance to be Gold, Amber, or Swift buffs as well. The player regen ability, you're probably also thinking, well, what about, you know, when you're on your well, you get insane regen. Well, all players will have access to a player regen ability. This is only usable when inside a captured structure's radius. This ability will generate that health and mana over time when standing in a structure's radius. The effect is doubled when used in a core versus a tower, so it'll feel just like, you know, a spawn pad. That spawn pad or well when you're in a core, but in a tower it'll be less, again incentivizing you to get that core, a fundamental aspect of a MOBA. This ability will have a 60-second cooldown. Yes, in a normal MOBA you can just come, you know, you can go in and out of that well and get it whenever you want. But this is different, and I thought that 60-second cooldown would be fair. Taking or dealing any damage will disrupt this effect. Remember, as we are trying to incorporate elements of the Battle Royale, you know, if you're having trouble around your last structure and it's a tower, well, you know, you're pretty much done for. Respawn invulnerability. What about, you know, respawning on a structure that is getting sieged or attacked, and you know people are just waiting for you, and then boom, they can combo? Well, you need something. So for 1.5 seconds after respawning, all players will be immune to damage and crowd control effects, be unable to deal damage with attacks or abilities. You'll still be able to use them, but will be able to use mobility cards and effects. So for 1.5 seconds, you're invulnerable. you'll be able to at least move around, you know, use a blink card or use a mobility, you know, use a mobility ability to kind of get away and at least have some sort of fighting chance to just promote healthy gameplay around that aspect. Now, what about the Battle Royale map elements and gameplay? What sort of those elements are we bringing into this game? Well, each team jumps out of a nexus that randomly chooses a starting location and vector to traverse the map, just like in VR with the, you know, the whole battle bus and the plane. Well, there's a huge orb planet theme in Monolith, so it could very much be one of these. Of course, look much cooler and fly across the map and stuff like that. Or this is, of course, a Protoss mothership from StarCraft, but I was thinking like a spawn pad, kind of change it to looking like something like this mothership theme sort of thing, and that flies across the map, and then you kind of like there's a spawn animation that you were kind of come down from the bottom, and that's how you go down. So there you go. That's kind of how you enter the match at the beginning. So after 7 minutes, of course, that's up to the bay, really, 5 to 7 minutes. The first 2 Super Prime Guardian spawn locations on cores are revealed, and a 3-minute timer begins. I'm kind of thinking that the locations will be revealed right off the beginning to give some interesting dynamics, so you know what's happening when you first jump, so that adds a unique element to it. But I'm kind of toying with that idea. 2 Super Guardians, and thus 2 cores in one direction, and farthest from 2 randomly selected finishing cores, you know, there has to be a finishing area, are identified to be destroyed first. After 3 minutes, the cores are permanently destroyed by neutral Super Prime Guardians that are spawned and slowly pushed down a designated connected lane. Destroyed cores do not spawn minions, pardon me, cannot respawn players, and do not allow players to access the upgrade tree. Essentially, they're useless. They're out of play, completely gone. Super Prime Guardians and Super Raptors, we get to in a minute, are indestructible, have a large aggro radius, and deal large amounts of damage. This, again, nice Photoshop skills here. Maybe put the visual. That's how big these Super Prime Guardians are. They're huge in the lane, and they're just going to be walking down these lanes, destroying everything. When Super Prime Guardians get within aggro radius of a structure, the Guardian attacks and destroys the structure. Permanently, they're gone permanently from play. Super Prime Guardians leave behind Scourged Earth. This takes up the whole lane, can be their AoE ground animation, and deals 5% of players' health as true damage per second, or whatever BRs kind of normally are. I just kind of guessed at 5% player health is true damage per second. That's 20 seconds and you're dead. I think that's a fair amount of time. Basically, it's just, this is how the map is getting constricted like other Battle Royale games. Super Prime Guardians are visible on the minimap. You know, you can see that in other games to all players, and are accompanied by a timer that show when they reach their next core, just like in other BR games. Multiple Super Prime Guardians may spawn at each core in order to effectively prohibit players from moving through the area or destroy enough cores. And this is in accordance with the intended overall battlefield restriction. Because of the unique design of the map, multiple may may have to spawn and kind of travel down lanes just to constrict the battlefield enough, right? Well, that can be obviously ironed out later. Closures continue until only 2 cores are left. One remaining team must finish off the game by capturing both remaining cores. I always toy and go back and forth between if only 1 core should be left. I mean, that kind of gives the advantage to the defending team, but it is ultimately random. And, you know, so c'est la vie. It's going to be interesting. I think only 2 cores left would be interesting, and then one team has to, you know, capture both, and they win the game. 3 Super Raptors are also spawned from all jungle camps that are adjacent to a permanently destroyed core. There are 4 to 5 camps in each triangular section, each triangular jungle that are closest to a core. These will spawn Super Raptors when the respective core is permanently destroyed. So as you can see here, in this little graphic here, you can see that these camps are kind of connected to this core. That's the closest. Those are kind of tied to that core. When that core goes down, all of those buffs turn into 3 Super Raptors. These 3 Super Raptors are indestructible, have a large aggro radius, and deal 5% of the player's true health is true damage per second, effectively shutting off the jungle. Again, just that map constriction design. Now, what about the itemization system? BRs, they do have items. You pick up weapons, you pick up armor, stuff like that, and so does MOBAs. So how do we combine that here in this game? Well, there's 4 tiers of cards. 4 tiers. Tier 1 cards are dropped by neutral creep, jungle minions, and hero kills. Basically, everything on the map has a chance to drop Tier 1 cards. Only 3 Tier 1 cards exist. There's only 3 of them. Unidentified, damage, defense, and trinket cards. There's only 3 options. The damage card, I don't know, obviously will have a name and stuff like that, will have 10% bonus damage. The defense item will have 10% bonus health, and the third trinket card will have 10% increased movement speed. And that's going to be your 3 cards that you pick up as Tier 1 cards on the battlefield. Tier 2 card categories then diversify into the categories of of heroes there are and kind of roles, not really. So damage, the damage item that gives 10% bonus damage, then is identified into a basic damage card or an ability damage card. A defense option identifies into a basic defense and ability defense card. Then the trinkets identify into a basic trinket and ability trinket card with actives and passives. Tier 3 and 4 cards are just better versions of those of those cards and are different inherently. Tier 4 items can only be upgraded at a core, not a tower, again to accentuate the core nature of MOBAs. So here is what it looks like. And again, nice lovely Photoshop job here, kind of giving you an idea. So there are these Tier 1 cards. You have only 3 cards that you can get. Now this tree here is a basic damage trees. These are all the cards that are in the basic damage kind of available to basic damage heroes. So if you're a basic type hero and you identify the damage card, well then you can pick which Tier 2 item you get from identifying. So that is how a mage identifies the damage item into one of their own cards, and a basic type hero identifies the damage item into one of their damage trees. So this is just an example of what is out there. And each tier, has, Tier 3, in order to upgrade from Tier 2, you need gold. You need gold to identify into that, or to upgrade into that. And then Tier 4, you need more gold to upgrade into that. So as you can see, there's tier trees, kind of like Smite, except Tier 1 you get from the battlefield, randomly. So the map starts off with neutral creep passively defending structures, and this is how you get items. Neutral creep drops Tier 1 unidentified items along with consumables. So identifying, again, the Tier 1 item turns it into a, you can select a Tier 2 card that is available to you, whether you're a basic hero or an ability hero. And again, it depends what you want. Players will then choose which higher tier cards to upgrade into and spend that gold. Killing an enemy hero for good will drop their cards at the location of their last living teammate's death. So they will, if a team does not have a claimed structure to respawn at, and they all die, well then they die permanently, and all of those cards are dropped at their last teammate's death. Any cards in stored structure, if you're kind of remembering that, they're just gone permanently. Killing enemy minions, jungle minions, and heroes grants Amber and hero experience, just like normal, except also has a chance to drop Tier 1 items, especially consumables. Amber is used to upgrade items at a captured structure into more advanced items of your choice. Items can be dropped for friendly allies to pick up. If unidentified, allies can then identify that items for themselves. That's kind of the whole trade mechanic of of BRs with friendly allies. You're like, oh, I have this here. Do you want it here? And then that's how you can, especially tier 1 items. You know, if your carry doesn't have any tier 1, you know, damage items, then you can just offload, you know, and the sport picks a couple, they can offload that to them. Consumables will be found on the battlefield, obviously, and won't be able to be purchased. So that's a really cool thing. And they can be used, you know, even in your backpack, you can use consumables from there. Items could be salvaged for amber only at captured cores. That would have to be tuned really carefully because you're essentially getting those for free. But that's a balanced process. Now, what are some unique MOBA and BR gameplay mechanics? Now, those are kind of like the elements that we could just kind of copy paste into this game. Now, what are some that need tweaking when we bring those in, or just more reworks? Well, hero abilities. That's one, at least for the beginning of the match. Heroes' basic abilities are unlocked upon landing, but cannot be upgraded even if player gains hero levels. Their ultimate ability, therefore, cannot be accessed, and this is to promote a satisfying and competitive early drop phase. Like, you know, yes, in BR, you don't have all your items when you know, when you drop immediately, and that's kind of the whole thing of it. But the corollary would be, imagine if you dropped in BR and had a weapon but were not able to fire it. That's kind of what I see here. So when you land, first, you have all of your basic abilities, but you can't upgrade them, but at least you have them for the early fights and stuff like that. So you may or may not have items, though. Once a team has captured a structure, though, abilities become locked. They become locked, but are unlockable and upgradable according to normal hero levels. This provides for an interesting dynamic. Do you go for kills and farm with all of your basic abilities unlocked, or do you get the security of a structure and the ability to respawn, but not all of your basic abilities? It provides at least a little bit interesting dynamic. Do you want to kill people? Do you want to risk killing you know, everybody in your immediate vicinity, or do you just go hard for that structure, claim it, and have maybe a bit of a tough time without all of your abilities unlocked? Very interesting dynamic. I will have to see if I would have to see if that works. Very interesting idea nonetheless. Now, neutral creep. What's this neutral creep? 3 ranged, 3 melee, and 1 siege minion will be positioned at each structure at the beginning of a match. Structures, though, they won't be active at the start of a match. They won't be active. They'll all just be deactivated. Players will have to destroy these minions, protecting the structures. And I brought in the whole dunk mechanic. Once destroyed, an activation orb will drop from the ground of the last minion killed. Players will need to pick up the orb and transport it to the structure's activation pedestal in order to start the structure's deployment phase. Once this is done, teams may channel the deployment phase to claim the structure for their team. When a structure is deactivated, however, the structure is not permanently destroyed, but instead just retreats underground, and the activation pedestal rises up to take its place. Subsequent teams may channel the deployment phase once deactivating the previous team's structure to claim it as their own. So right off the beginning of the map, of the match, you can contest that orb. You know, somebody made the last kill and they have it. No, I want to, you know, try to kill them, pick up that orb, put it in the pedestal, and then you know, channel that deployment phase. So that creates a really interesting dynamic trying to fight for that first structure. And then that's how, and then with the whole pedestal and retreating mechanic, that's how other teams pardon me, are able to claim it for themselves. So that is how the whole structures work there. Map objectives. Just like in BR, especially in a MOBA, you know, there are drops that come down, there are map objectives that spawn in a MOBA. Well, same thing here. Throughout a match, numerous map objectives will spawn randomly at various map objective spawn pads throughout the jungles of the map. And those are those central spawn locations in each triangle, so to speak. Fangtooth. 5 Fangtooth spawn at randomly selected jungle spawn pads throughout the map. 10 total spawn locations. So about half of them are filled with Fang Teeth. First at the 8-minute mark, again, those times can all be hammered out. Each Fang Tooth that is killed will go on its own 4-minute spawn timer and spawn at another random spawn pad, just like kind of like just like Paragon is now. And Fang Tooth only provides a killing team with extra gold. For now, I think that's fair. That's just my gut says this. Now there's the Prime Helix Guardians. They're not the Super Prime Guardians. These are the Prime Helix Guardians, the map objectives. 2 Prime Helix Guardians spawn at randomly selected jungle spawn pads throughout the map. First 2 at the 12-minute mark. Once killed, they eventually go on a 5-minute spawn timer and randomly spawn at another area on the map. Killing this, though, does grant that Prime Helix buff, same as Paragon as it does now. Maybe it also grants some gold and experience. Those are a bit more serious objectives, you know, and teams might risk traveling from farther in the map to contest that, or just kind of push objectives. Who knows? So that is that. Now, what about the economy? You know, there is economy in BR, the chance of items dropping, you know, from chests or just from spawning, you know, or around the map. Well, this is how this works. There's 11 cores, 20 teams, 37 lanes, 140 jungle camps, 10 objective camps, and 30 jungle buff camps. So that means that there's 3.5 extra lanes worth of minions. If we want to kind of balance this out to what Paragon was, or what Paragon is normally, well, then that means that there needs to be 17.5 less Amber and Hero experience from lane minions. There's 6 jungle minion camps per core normally, 66 jungle camps for 11 cores. There's 74 extra jungle camps, so they have to be worth pretty much half as much as they are now. 2 jungle buff camps per core normally, meaning 22 for 11, but we have 8 extra, so they have to be reduced. Essentially, it's just kind of bringing all of the economy back, just so that while the prices won't necessarily change, and you'll see that coming up, while the prices for items won't necessarily change, I mean, they could, to reflect the new economy. This almost makes it easier just to kind of bring that all in line, just so that the discrepancy between certain lanes and cores and stuff isn't totally out of control with a non-changing item price. This is a structure and objective dynamics. Just kind of general statements that I wanted to make that are important. Structures will take significantly less damage without minions nearby. All structures will require minions nearby to be destroyed. That is important. If you don't have a structure, well, like that's kind of you're out of luck. You're gonna have a really hard time coming back from the game. There's a ton of structures. There's a ton of structures on the map. There's 11 cores, but something like 30 some odd, 40-ish structures on the map, you know, and only 20 teams. If you don't have a structure, it's going to be really hard for you to come back. So I think that is absolutely fair. Cores should feel like a significant team objective that could be the final, you know, the final structure for a team. It needs to feel significant to take. Tower should feel like a significant squad objective. So 2 damage dealers per se, or 3 mixed rolls should be required to kill that. Pardon me. Turrets should feel like a solo objective. Turrets, those small little ones on the core. Just a little thing. All that they're meant to do is just kind of hold off minion waves just for a couple waves. That's all what they're really meant to do. Because some cores, you know, they have 5 lanes and stuff like that. Fangtooth should feel like a lesser team objective. 4 teammates would be required for that. An Orb Prime would be a significant team objective, just like normal. What are some of the development requirements? Well, we have to adapt Paragon's draft screen to lean into Fortnite BR's 100-person matchmaking process. And actually, it's 100-person matchmaking, draft screen, and then into the drop phase. So 100 people are essentially accumulated, then randomly assigned into 5-man teams. Already grouped up players will stay in groups or combined with other groups. And again, player base changes how this works, ranked changes how this works, etc., etc., etc. So just for now, that is fine. 5-man teams are sent to Paragon's adapted draft screen. Each team is a different team color to use to identify their captured cores and lane minions. The Nexus, again, remember that thing that flies over. It could be a special orb or one of these really cool, you know, adapted spawn pads, mothership looking thing. Each players jump off the platform via a spawn animation. So again, that would look really cool. This whole spawn animation kind of happens like in Paragon, except you're diving down. Each hero would need a diving character animation. Wouldn't be too bad, just kind of relatively simple. Arms holding back, legs holding back. Each hero would need a hovering animation, which would be unique to each hero to emphasize their, you know, their identity. So, you know, Twin Blast pulls out as many guns and shoots the ground to halt his fall. That'd be really, really cool. Or could just be a generic adaptation of spawn animation that just kind of magically halts their fall as they kind of hover to the ground. We would need, you know, again, that algorithm for the start location travel vector of it, same as Fortnite PR. And then just kind of go through how I would create, you know, the map. But that's not really necessarily important for this. I just wanted to give you guys the idea of what this would look like. Structures wouldn't even need to fold down. They would just or kind of retreat underground. They could just fold down into what kind of they currently do. You may not even need the activation pedestals. You know, you could just have the orb and stand next to the structure, and then just kind of channel it. That would be an option. Those little core turrets, and not the towers in between the lanes, but the turrets would be like 50% smaller, you know, and same with stats, kind of stuff like that. The inhibitor model, the big beefy turrets or inhibitors, would be the new towers in the middle of each lane, just to make those a little bit more substantial. And again, that whole pedestal thing might not need to be started, or might not even need to be created. The neutral creep minions, I would love to see those you know, programmed to patrol around the inside of each structure. I'm sure that might not be too hard to do, but again, that activation orb could just be a normal buff, you know, that transfers to the killer, whoever kills that last one, and make it really nice and simple. The jungle buff camps, you know, the whole guardian, you know, Zechen or hunters or gold, red, blue, they could just be simple color variations, not too hard to make, instead of whole new models. The whole map objective platforms, I see it as the Guardian spawn platform from the Monolith Jungle where the Guardian camp sits. That I would just make that bigger, much bigger, like 30% larger than the Orb Prime Pit, and that is where those map objectives are. Just nice big platforms for some huge, awesome team fights. And again, randomly programmed to spawn according to above stipulations. We have lane minions. We got same models as Paragon, of course, you know, colored to each team that, you know, where they're coming from, the identified core. So just so you know whose minions are whose. Additional program to only spawn from activated cores. Program to push all down connected lanes when reaching an active core. Obviously, they would just randomly select the lane to go down. And super minions, they would not buff the rest of the minion wave. I think that's not a sound a sound mechanic. They perform their function just fine normally. They don't need to buff the rest of the minion wave. Super Prime Guardian, Super Raptors. So again, the Super Prime Guardian, obviously you could change the colors and add like this really sick aura around them as they kind of slowly march down the lane. That would be what they look like. You need the same, basically you could just use the same spawn animation that Orb Prime currently does. You know, change the aggro radius. The Scourged Earth thing would just be the animation of that ground AoE attack where it's all like, you know, purple earth that deals damage and stuff like that, and then just have it fill the entire lane. It kind of just boils out from behind them and fills the entire lane, sort of a thing. The programming of the Super Prime Guardians would be interesting. Finding an algorithm that effectively you know, shuts down all of the lanes as the map gets smaller and smaller. That would be interesting to program and stuff like that, as multiple ones may need to spawn per, you know, at some points to cut off certain lanes. That would be interesting to do, and to add some, and obviously add variation to it. But obviously that would make the gameplay of it very interesting as well. Super Raptors, really kind of, I would just use the old Raptor models. I don't know if Fangtooth is just a much bigger Raptor model than before, but I would just use those the old Raptor model where there's 3 of them. Again, they would spawn at each jungle camp adjacent to permanently destroyed cores. They would just replace them. Kind of really simple, or they just spawn there and kill those and just stay there, stuff like that. You could create a themed map instead, so this would just be like copy paste, each section looks the same, or if you just change, you know, just change the colors so one section is just darker than the other, just kind of like it is right now, if that's relatively easy. But I would love to see, again, each area of the map have its own unique geographical theme, you know, mountains, swamp, volcano, ocean, prairie sort of a thing. That would be really cool, but that would obviously be a ton of work. So the itemization system, this would also be a lot of work. You know, all cards categorized into 2 damage hero type cards, basic and ability cards. You have to take all the cards that are in Paragon now and sort them out, kind of like what I did here for the basic damage trees, into each of the 6 categories. So each of the 6 categories, basic, you know, basic damage, ability damage, you need multiple trees in each of those. And not all of the cards would need, you know, would need to be in here. A lot of the cards, to be honest with you, are just not, they're, you know, in this sort of a world, it's kind of, you know, whatever. Like, don't even need to include them. And if you notice here, I have Nitro Boost as a tier 2 card. Obviously, the stats and stuff would have to be tweaked to reflect that the fact that it's a tier 2 card, and of course all that is there. So creating the tier 1 cards, real simple. Again, just 3 cards, basic generic cards. You can call them a sword, shield, and ring or something, like really simple. Just simple items at the start of the match, but they do give you a relatively significant impact. 10% damage, health, movement speed. They have to have some relevant effect in that early game, or you decide to upgrade it, or you decide to, you know, to get that one of the tier 2 cards. Kind of up to you what you want to do. Assigning gold upgrade values to cards, this would be a really tricky part, but it wouldn't be too bad. You just kind of convert the attribute points into gold, with 1 attribute point equals 1,000 gold, and all cards would have 1,000 gold added to their cost, though, because essentially tier 2 items are essentially received for free, and tier 2 items are essentially 1 cost cards. Almost. Again, a lot of them would need to be reworked. Wouldn't be too bad, but obviously there would be a lot of work still involved. Reworking card stats to have attribute point stats incorporated. You get stats from the attribute points. You just have to kind of transfer those onto the cards, into the cards themselves, and because there are no attribute points. What about those gems, though? This one, not too bad. As player spends gold on upgrading items, more gem slots become available in the player's equipment screen. So any player, once you spend 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 7,000, 13,000, and 19,000 gold, you unlock those gem slots. And then the kind of gems that are available to you in those gem slots are unlocked or just become available depending on how much gold you have spent on the type of items. So if you've spent, you know, if you spend 13,000 gold on a damage type item, upgrading it, then one of your gen slots, or just in your gen slots, you will have access to those tier 13 damage gem slots, or gems that would have to be categorized themselves. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So the available gems are simply selected via pop-up menu, just kind of like a scroll down, but a pop-up menu. Once a gem is selected, player cannot change the gem. Big warning screen is displayed there. And that's how those gems would work. Now, designing the equipment upgrade screen, you guys have seen it already. We have the different areas, the stat screen and the backpack and the gems and stuff like that. There would be your equipped cards that you could only equip on a structure. Then there would be the backpack, which is your mobile. You know, as you pick up other cards, you know, that would go into your backpack for also consumables. But you would also have 3 additional equipment slots as storage that you can access from any allied structure. Those, though, if your structure is destroyed, you lose those. If all of your structures are destroyed, then you lose those. So yeah, you know, it's kind of important, you know, that's how that equipment is. I kind of went down from 12 total slots like Paragon is now to 9, just because, you know, BR and stuff has much more, especially PUBG has a lot more item slots and equipment, but I thought that was a appropriate way to go about this. When a player selects or hovers over an equipped card, the upgrade tree that card is in is visible in an area at the top right of the screen. That's what this is. So if I click a tier 2 card, damage basic card, you know, basic damage card, I would click it, and then, you know, the upgrade tree that it is in would come up, and then I would be able to upgrade it at a structure and stuff like that. So that's how that would work. Now, hero and card reworks, global ultimates and global vision / effects obviously would need maximum ranges. You know, they would only work so far, and that's one of the really glaring things to me. And in no way is this comprehensive at all. There's client programming and engineering. Obviously, need to utilize the current. I would just utilize the current Paragon tab in the Epic Launcher. Player progression, same as Paragon. Monetization. This is where you could incorporate that Battle Pass idea. Get exclusive skin and emote tokens to be used for different tiers of skins, emotes on any hero. So, excuse me. Skins and emotes would be sorted into tiers, and then you would get tokens to use on any skin or emote in that tier, so that, you know, if you know, obviously, not everybody will appreciate a Shinbi tier 1 skin variation. That's why you give them tokens, so that they can pick what they want out of certain tiers. The BR win rewards, you know, for winning certain amounts and stuff, different tiers of tokens for a certain amount of wins could also still be there. But there's still the entire system that's in Paragon right now that you could keep, because it's still kind of the same thing, just with a BR element added to it. So there you guys go. Whoo! What a video. I hope you guys enjoy. And if you guys are still around for the, you know, at this point, kudos to you. Really cool idea. I really wanted to share it with you. Again, I'm a dreamer. I like dreaming, coming up with ideas. See, just going through with it, and just kind of, you know what, it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to dream, and it's healthy sometimes, and not healthy sometimes. But there you guys go. Let me know down in the comments. Would you guys play this game? Would this be exciting? Do you think it's, you know, would you play it? Would it have success? Would it be a thrill to play? Would it be engaging? What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Please like this video, like it, dislike it. If you dislike it, share it with the community. Of course, guys, subscribe if you guys like this content, especially if you found it useful. Hit that subscribe button so I can do it for you in the future. Check the video description for links to my website, merchandise store, and Amazon affiliate, as well as all of my social media right here. Huge shout out to my Patreon supporters, Twitch subscribers, and YouTube sponsors for going out of the way, really make these videos possible. It's not like always, stay optimistic and positive.